Welcome to the CloudJumper WVD end-to-end walkthrough. This video starts with an empty Azure tenant and ends with an end user logging into a WVD environment. The first thing we're going to do is log in to the Azure portal so we can check some permissions and settings. When deploying WVD, we're going to use an admin account inside this tenant's Azure Active Directory structure. This Azure Administrator account needs to have the directory role of Global Administrator. This account also has to have the ownership role assigned to them for the subscription. Once those rights have been confirmed, we're going to leave the Azure portal and log into the CWA Setup wizard using those same credentials. If this is your first CWA Setup deployment, you won't have a CWMS account yet, so register here and you can get one for free. Next, you'll initialize the Cloud Workspace, which adds CloudJumper's service principal to that Azure tenant and allows the rest of the deployment. Once we start going through the steps in the wizard, we'll start by making selections, including the Azure region we'll be deploying into. Next, we'll define the local VM admin, as well as a SQL SA password for the CW Manager SQL Express instance that runs to keep logs and settings. It's a good idea to safely document the usernames and passwords we input to this wizard. We'll also define the from and to email addresses used by CWMS for partner notifications, as well as Level 3 technicians. These are domain-level admin accounts that can be used by your technical staff for troubleshooting and support. When deploying WVD, leave the selection for Azure Active Directory and automatic SSL certificate configuration. The only change you need to do here is to set the time zone and make sure that the FTP toggle is set to off. Next, we're going to build the subnet by entering your preferred /20 subnet range and clicking Get Subnet Groups. On the last page, we're going to make sure that the ThinPrint License Manager is deactivated, as that's only used for RDS environments. Finally, we're going to click Validate, and CWA Setup will check the settings to make sure that they'll work. You can check the status logs in the upper right corner, and approximately 2 minutes later, the environment will be ready for provisioning. Simply scroll down and click the Provision button to kick off the automation. Now that we've completed the wizard, there's about 2 to 3 hours of automation that's going to run in the background against the Azure APIs. During this time, you can review the documentation from the link provided at the end, or do other work and come back to this when you're ready. You can get real-time updates by clicking Status on the left-hand side and reviewing the items contained. A few hours later, you can see that the environment has been deployed. The CW Manager VM has been created, as has the first server, a TSD1. This is the first machine in the environment, and in WVD it's going to act as the file server. Next, we transition out of the CWA Setup and into CWMS, CloudJumper's Cloud Workspace Management Suite. Next, we need to enable WVD for this tenant. We do that by copying the tenant ID and going to the WVD consent page. There, we're going to enter that tenant ID for the server app. We're going to wait 1 minute, and then we're going to do it again for the client app. This will tell Azure to add the WVD components required so that we can continue with our work. Next, we'll click Allow WVD Access, and the system will begin to check every 60 seconds to see if WVD access has been provided. This process usually takes about 10 minutes before Azure has activated the WVD components. Finally, you'll be able to initialize WVD and start building out host pools, adding users, and doing all the other configurations required for WVD. The first thing you'll do after activating WVD is to create a host pool. This is a container in which the users and their VMs will be organized. You can choose a host pool type of shared or VDI, a load balancer type of breadth or depth. We generally prefer depth. You can select the VM template, in this case the Windows 10 Enterprise Virtual Desktop that's most recent, and then whatever VM size you would like. In our example, we're doing a B2MS. You can also choose the type of storage that machine gets and the quantity of virtual machines built. By clicking on the newly created host pool, you can look at the details and see the session host is being provisioned. This usually takes about 15 minutes. This is a good time to add your users. Changes to Azure Active Directory take about 20 minutes to populate over to Azure Active Directory domain services, and so it's a good idea to get this stuff done before you need to use them. You can add users manually or import them with a Microsoft Excel template you can download from the import section. You can see the progress of the deployment of this host pool machine by connecting to the CWManager server and opening the log files. The logs are found in the Cloud Workspace directory in the C Program Files directory. As you can see at the bottom of this log file, the final of 25 steps to create that WVD host pool VM have been completed. Because of the 20-minute delay, we're going to skip back to the users section really quick to set the passwords for all of the users that we've just created. Next, we're going to add the users to the desktop application group. This is going to give them access to a Windows virtual desktop, as well as any applications that are installed on that desktop. App groups can also be used for streaming applications, but a user can only be a member of one app group at a time. Now we're ready to connect to the Windows Virtual Desktop environment. The HTML5 URL on the WVD page will give you access to WVD in a modern browser. Simply log in with the end user's Azure Active Directory account. Then you'll select the session desktop and log in again. And there we have it. After a couple seconds, the user is going to be logged in to their brand new Windows Virtual Desktop environment. On a go-forward basis, CWMS can also be used for day-to-day management, application delivery, live scaling and resource scheduling, and many other administrative tasks. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you can see how easy it is to deploy native WVD using CloudJumper's CWA Setup and manage it using the CWMS portal.